Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. Hope everyone is doing well on this Thursday morning. Lots to discuss on today's show, but before we jump into that, please do me a small favour. Make sure to drop a like on today's video and be sure to subscribe to the channel bottom right hand corner. Before we get into today's video, I have a question as always to ask you, and it is in relation to Alejandro Garnacho and Victor Osimhen. The question is this: would you swap Garnacho in exchange for Osimhen? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. We are going to start off with that story because... oh, nearly lost my pen there. The headline this morning is that apparently Manchester United are effectively wanting to do this swap deal. Okay? How do people feel about that? I would do it. I'm just going to say from the off 100% if this was an option. Now, just to be very, very clear, the likelihood of a straight swap is almost impossible. I think when people say a swap deal, what they mean is Garnacho will go to Napoli and Osimhen will go to Manchester United. But it will be two separate transactions because there is absolutely zero benefit of Manchester United swapping Garnacho for Osimhen because of financial fair play. Obviously, he's come through the youth academy. He would go down as 100% profit. It would be illogical. It would be stupid. It would be nonsensical. It would be dumb. I mean, maybe Man United do it. They have made stupid decisions in the past. But in reality, what would really happen is Manchester United would pay Napoli Osimhen's release clause, which is believed to be around £60 million. And then Manchester United would separately negotiate a deal for Garnacho to go to Napoli. So a lot of people are using the term swap deal this morning. There's a lot of journalists in the UK reporting that a swap deal is likely. But in reality, what will actually happen, or what could potentially happen, is Man United will buy Osimhen and Napoli will buy Garnacho. But it wouldn't be like... swap deals are so rare these days. What was the last high-profile swap deal you can remember? I can't think of any. Let me know in the comment section if you can think of any high-profile swaps, because I genuinely can't think of the last time there was a big swap deal that happened in football. They don't really happen, is the point. Maybe at the lower levels that you might see like swap deals and stuff, but it's just too complicated. Obviously, both of these two players are on different wages. I think Osimhen's on about 250 grand a week. Garnacho's on about 50 grand a week. Like, it would just be such a complicated deal to do. Yeah, so I think the likelihood of this swap deal, as being described, happens is very small, but I guess you never know. You never know in football, but I would say the likelihood of it happening, in my opinion, is extremely small. Maybe 1 or 2%. But the likelihood of Manchester United going for Osimhen, I think, is quite high. I think we need a striker. We are going to be talking in a minute about strikers for the summer, because there are more stories coming up this morning suggesting that Manchester United are looking at 4 strikers this summer. They're not going to sign 4, but they're looking at 4 potential names. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But circling back to Victor Osimhen, apparently he is willing to join Manchester United even if we don't have Champions League football, which is interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, he is playing in the Turkish league at the moment and he's got Europa League football. So it's not really a step down for him, is it? To go from the Turkish league to the Premier League. I mean, I think we can all agree that that's a step up. So yeah, it's an interesting time, isn't it? Because I think, you know, we can all agree that we desperately need to sign a striker in the summer. I said it last summer that we desperately needed to sign a striker. But I think now it becomes more obvious than ever. You know, like, we struggle to score goals. And look how many chances we created against Nottingham Forest the other day. They had 1 chance and they scored. We had, I think, 70% of the possession, more shots on target. Our XG was higher. And then in the end of the game, a centre-back in Harry Maguire comes onto the pitch and has the best chances that we had all game. I mean, that kind of shows us the type of profile we need, you know? If Harry Maguire as a centre-back can come on the pitch, and I saw a mad stat that said that Harry Maguire had a higher XG in the 5 minutes he played against Nottingham Forest in the Premier League on Tuesday than Rasmus Højlund has in 15 games in the Premier League. I mean, it's mad. So, yeah. I personally think striker should be the number one priority for me. I think it has to be because we're not scoring enough goals. Our defense isn't awful, but our attack is literally just non-existent. The only player who seems to score goals is Bruno, and that's it. We're a one-man band at the moment. But yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section about this. Let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Should Manchester United be going in for Osihmen, or should we be looking at someone else? Let me know what you think. I'd be very interested to get your thoughts, effectively. And if there's another name that you think we should be looking at, let me know, and I'll have a little. We can have a chat about it. I'm just gonna have a look at this other story. That's come out this morning from Fabrizio. So Fabrizio's been speaking about the striker situation at Manchester United, and he is reporting this morning that Manchester United have 4 or 5 names on their list for the new striker this summer. And it says that they will soon make their decision, and it will all be based on the budget that's available. So, I mean, effectively, it depends if we get Champions League football, really, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, for me, Champions League football will open so many doors. It will open doors to players that want to join Manchester United, which is obviously obvious. But it will also open doors to our availability to spend money, because at the moment, we've got our hands tied behind our back. At the moment, we're looking at this situation and we are sat here thinking, well, who are we even going to be able to afford? Who are we going to be able to attract? That's the biggest problem that we have, I think. Because at the moment, we are scratching our heads looking at people like Liam Delap, looking at people like, I mean, who else are we looking at? Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a fair amount of players that, yeah, I don't know. Some of the names that we're being linked to are just pretty underwhelming, realistically. I don't know if you'd agree, but some of the names that we've been linked to are just like, what are we doing? Why are we linked to these players? No disrespect to Liam Delap. Maybe he goes on to be one of the best strikers in the world in a few years, but yeah, I just think some of these names that I've seen United linked to, it just makes me a little bit worried. Al says, do you think Osihmen would accept 200 grand a week? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a negotiation, isn't it? If he wants to play in the Premier League and doesn't want to play in the Saudi League, he might have to accept a little bit more money, a little bit less money, Tony says Jonathan David looks like a realistic option. Yeah, I think Jonathan David is a relatively easy option to do, isn't it? Because obviously he's a free agent. Free agents do usually ask for big wages, though, you have to remember. So do bear that in mind. Just because they're a free agent doesn't mean that we're going to get them for free. We are still going to have to pay signing on fees. We're going to have to pay, agent fees, probably big wages. So, yeah, we do have to bear that in mind. That although a player is free, usually in those situations, the agent of the player will try and make up the deal so it's a bit more profitable for their client, which is fair enough. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, their job is to make as much money as possible for their client, and that's effectively what they're doing. So you can't really blame them, but this whole narrative that a free agent is completely free. I mean, it's free in the sense that we don't pay a transfer fee, but usually because you don't pay a transfer fee, it means that you pay massive amounts of money in wages and agent fees and all of that stuff. So yeah, just bear that in mind. The whole free transfer thing, from my experience and from following football for a long time, a lot of the time the players try and effectively make it so they're getting the transfer fee, if that makes sense. So say they join it as a free agent, right? They try and make it so they'll get like 10 million as a signing on fee. And then their agent will ask for 5 million, you know, and it can get quite expensive. So just bear that in mind. I do like Jonathan David. I think he'd be a very solid option. I think he's someone Man United should be looking at. It's just whether the overall package makes sense, you know? So yeah, that's something to bear in mind, right? Let's see what else people are saying in the chat this morning. Jonathan David at Lille. I think he's earning like a really small amount of money for a footballer. I think he's on about 30 grand a week. Let me just double check that. Oh no, wow. Is that right? Hold on. Oh, yeah, he's on 37 grand a week. That's euros. So about £30,000 a week. So it's not much. I mean, £30,000 a week for a footballer is nothing. If you think that Casemiro's on 350 grand a week, Højlund's on, I think, about 120. I think Xerxes on about 100. Luke Shaw's on about 150, and he hasn't played football for like, I don't know, what feels like 2 years. So yeah, I mean, in theory, you know, if he's on 30 grand a week at Lille, you give him 60 and he's happy. But I don't know. I feel like Jonathan David's running down his contract because he knows at the end of his contract he can ask for 150 grand a week and someone will probably pay him it because they'll say, oh, it's a free transfer, you know? And he'll kind of subsidise the money that the club would have got in a transfer fee to then go into his wages, if that makes sense. Yeah, so we'll see how that progresses, but I personally think that Man United need to go for a high-profile striker. I guess Jonathan David is kind of like a middle ground. You know, he's somewhere between like a Liam Delap and a Victor Osimhen. He's not as prolific as a Victor Osimhen, but he is still a prolific striker in the French league, and he has been around for a while. So yeah, I think he'd be an interesting option. The fact of the matter is, we just need somebody, and we need somebody desperately, because at the moment, the options that we're being linked to, like Liam Delap, it just doesn't excite me. I'm sorry, it really doesn't. Maybe you see it differently. Maybe you think Liam Delap is, you know, the player to take us from where we are now to where we want to be. But I just don't see it. I don't. I think a lot of people feel the same, to be fair, about Liam Delap. You know, a lot of people are looking at the situation around Liam Delap and say he's a talented player. Yeah, talented player, but yeah, I don't know. I just think for me, he's just very similar to Rasmus Højlund. I can never say this word. He's a striker that you develop effectively. I always struggle to say the other word. So yeah, we'll see how it progresses in the summer. But I think we need to go out and get a big name player desperately. Al says, "What do you think about Angel Gomez?" I like Angel Gomez. I think he'd be an interesting option. Again, is he going to take us from where we are now to where we want to be? I'm not sure. I think he'd be a good squad player. That's kind of my take on it. But again, let me know what you guys think about Angel Gomez. I mean, I don't think he's really been that prolific in the French league, has he? I think he's done well, but you know, I don't think he's like lit it up, has he? Let's have a look. So Angel Gomez's stats for this season. He's got 1 goal and 1 assist so far. That's in 14 games in the French league. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not very good, is it? If he wants to sit on the bench, then maybe, but I just don't see it. I mean, Angel Gomez left Manchester United for game time. Do we think he'd come back 3-4 years later to then just sit on the bench? Because that is where he would be. You know, he's not going to play over Bruno. He's not going to play over Xerxes. He's not going to play over Mason Mount, probably. So yeah, for me, he'd just be a squad player. and it's whether he's happy to be a squad player, because he probably could go to like a West Ham or someone like that. Maybe not even West Ham. They've got some good players in those positions, but you know, he's linked to a lot of clubs. He could go to another club, I think, and get more game time than he will at Man United. And that doesn't mean that we're better than those clubs or we have better players. I just think he could be a little bit more commanding if he went to, like, I don't know, not even Tottenham. I mean, Tottenham have got good players in that position. Someone at the bottom end of the Premier League, like an Everton. I mean, we're in the bottom end of the Premier League, to be fair, aren't we? But you know what I mean. In the traditional end of the bottom end of the Premier League. So, yeah, we'll see. But I personally wouldn't be that fussed about Angel Gomez unless, as I said, unless it was a, like, you know, to have as a kind of backup player, a bench player. So, yeah. Right, let's see what else people are saying this morning. What have we got? Tom says that apparently Jonathan David is going to Juventus in the summer after Kolo Muani goes to PSG. Okay. Somebody says Garnacho can go, make money from him and move on to players who fit the system. I would agree with that. I would agree. Right. I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Just a little short one this morning because there's not that much to talk about at the moment. It's all a bit quiet. But anyway, have a great day, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow morning at the same time. Yeah, have a lovely afternoon, day, morning, wherever you are in the world. And I'll speak to you all later. Bye for now.